Hey, could someone please call Respiratory?
Welcome to the Hey, Could Someone Please Call Respiratory podcast with your hosts Eric Harder and Denise Van Baal.
We are back after quite a hiatus of the Hey, Can Someone Please Call Respiratory podcast. Once again, as everybody knows, I am the host. Certainly the guy down below is not the host, and certainly the coffee gulping Denise or Dennis is not the host.
Okay.
Well, she is. She is the co-host. With all due respect and appreciation, she is the co-host of our very popular "Hey, Can Someone Please Call Respiratory" podcast. Braden, I don't know if your mom watches the podcast.
Probably not.
I don't know if your dad watches the podcast.
Is he alive?
Yeah, he is, but yeah, they won't be watching. Yeah, it's okay. My dog watches the podcast.
Fantastic. Maybe your son could give a look.
He would look at it. Yeah.
And your wife would enjoy it, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Yes.
She's got to look at your face every day. I'm sure she'd rather not again look at it on the computer.
Well, she is a counselor. As I know, my wife is a school counselor as well. They are not guidance counselors. They reject that.
Yes, I found that out. You can't refer to them as guidance counselors.
No, it's like calling us respiratory techs. I guess we don't like that.
Bingo.
I don't care, but you can call me whatever you want. So again, welcome to the podcast. As I can tell, the viewers are already having a fantastic time and laughing uncontrollably. I would like to introduce the man of the hour who is down below. His name is Braden Beaker.
Beaker.
You should probably know.
Beaker. Yeah.
His name is Braden Beaker. He is our VP of Sales and Marketing. I would like to welcome Braden to the podcast today. So
happy to be here.
Thank you for being there.
Thanks, Braden.
Thanks, Denise. As you know, I am in an outside location in a place that's not cold. So I am remoting in to the podcast. So
it's been nice to not have you right over there.
Thank you. That's really sweet and kind.
So it sounds very suspicious. It's like an undisclosed location. It almost sounds very,
Actually, suspicious. There is a tornado warning here today. Literally, they canceled the schools. And so this may be the last conversation that I have. And thankfully, it's about respiratory.
Well, look, if you don't make it out, me and Denise got everything under control. All right.
Yeah. Please proceed. Go on and conquer the world. And
you got it.
Save all the patients. So today, what I would like to talk about on the podcast is I would like to talk about our respiratory telehealth, which is very exciting. We've seen so much success with helping these people already. It's unbelievable. And I don't know why we didn't do this a lot earlier. Think about it. Like for years, Braden and Denise, what did we do? Call comes in, email comes across, stat. Don't you love the stat order?
It doesn't even make me angry.
Stat order, patient needs X, Y, and Z. But really the BiPAP is unplugged or the O2 adapter is not connected. And now we're trying to find, we have our employees meandering around the area, and now we have to redirect them from one thing to another that's more urgent. And then now they're on overtime, and then they missed the soccer game, and then so on and so forth, right? But that's what we do, and that's what we've done. And that's what we'll continue to do. However, the virus has kicked up, in my view, telehealth of probably 5 years. And it basically, patients that wanted care needed that didn't want exposures needed to get in front of and figure out smartphones, cell phones, laptops, what have you. So what we're talking about is respiratory telehealth. Now, we're not physicians, we're not nurse practitioners, but there is a very specific and certain niche of what we do. And what we do, I always tell people it's about 10 things, right? We have to know about 10 things very well. We don't necessarily know about IVs. We don't necessarily know about cracking the chest and pumping the blood in the heart. But we do know about different modes of ventilation. We do know about mask fitting. We do know how to connect trach patients, high flow patients, trilogy, NIOF patients, CPAP, BiPAP. We do know about flows and pressures and volumes and so on and so forth. And that and fortunately, patients that are short of breath, typically, even though they don't know what to call it, are concerned about flows and pressures and volumes, right? So that being said, what we are doing and a thing that I highly encourage people to use for their hospice patients specifically is respiratory telehealth. So Denise, why don't you share some of the benefits that you've seen as far as using respiratory telehealth so far?
So one of the main benefits for right now is not exposing your very susceptible patients to the coronavirus. We're all healthcare workers. We're all out there in the field. We're all exposed every day. So a hospice patient who is very fragile would not benefit from getting the coronavirus. So instead of stepping foot into their door and risking that exposure, we can fix the problem over the computer or cell phone or whatever have you. That, and then being able to address the problem right away. So normally we have a 4-hour window. A lot of times it's quicker than that. But with the telehealth, we don't have to actually put somebody out there in a car and to drive to their house. So we can just hop on the phone right away, get our eyes on the patient and solve the problem as soon as possible. What else?
Yeah, and that's, I totally agree with that. And I also thinking like about the listener and all, and like I certainly don't want the podcast today to be about like an ongoing, hey, buy our stuff, send us dollars, you know, like if you don't use respiratory telehealth right now, eventually you will, because it's the future and it's the now. So you're limiting what your patients are able to get. I mean, we're talking about, you know, I've had family members on hospice, like all of us, I think. I know Denise, I don't know about Mr. Beaker, but I'm sure he has. And especially if you don't know anything about breathing difficulties and so on, I mean, it's a terrible position to be in. And if you call a company who's your hospice company and they hem and haw on getting somebody out there who knows what's going on, you're not going to be too happy, right? You're going to be highly irritated, and as well you should be. So for the cost that we're charging, it's basically ministry or it's basically volunteerism, really. But I think I'm fine with that, because we already do a lot of things, I guess, that sort of make us money, and not that we don't make money doing telehealth, but at the same time, I just want to get it out there so that people, you know, separate from the business and the finances and everything, I want to be as a company, we want to be a company that's on the cutting edge of the next thing that's helping people. I mean, what a better way to differentiate yourself from the crowd, which I like to differentiate our company from the crowd, because I think we're 1,000,000% better than the other companies.
Yeah,
No, I'm
and you
sorry.
know what, Eric, you
10
brought up a
million.
good point. 10 million, but you brought up a good point. Like, but this telehealth thing, I think we listen to the needs of our customers. You know, this is something that we've been told time and time again, that's helpful, and our customers, our hospice companies really can use this. It's an alternative solution to types of patients that need immediate support. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're cutting down on like bedside visits, the cost of equipment. I mean, just think of that patient where their BiPAP mask wasn't on right, or it was disconnected, and just to have an expert come on telehealth and say, "Oh, hey, that's
You all right, hon?
it was just this."
I hit the
What was
microphone. I'm sorry. It scared me.
That thing will jump out at you.
Unreal.
It drives me nuts.
So, but yeah, that's what's so great about it. I mean, it really is.
So I want to, like, Denise is our, operations director. And so she gets involved in a lot of these interactions with patients. So Denise, let's talk about like a typical time where somebody needs to be seen, right? It's like a respiratory visit is typically the order, right? So hospice patient, respiratory visit, unknown issue. I mean, what's an issue? I mean, shortness of breath or mask fitting issue or machine issue or whatever, right? Those
That's a lot of them. I actually just got a call the other day. It was a trach patient. Everything was all set up by the DME company, not by a respiratory therapist. So all the equipment was already there and together, set up by the DME company, who doesn't employ any respiratory therapists. So the families and the nurse was there. They're all bugging out. They have no idea how to get the oxygen from the concentrator to the patient. They got 16 boxes and they're all making noise and there's a whole bunch of tubing and nobody has a clue. So it actually started out as just a phone call, and I'm trying to talk to the nurse and she's using crazy terms to describe everything, and I having a little trouble following what she's talking about, which is odd because usually I can figure it out. But finally I said, hey, let's do this another way. So we did the telehealth, and once I was able to get my eyes on everything and see exactly what she was talking about, it took about 2 minutes to get everything hooked up correctly, and patient was on O2 and everybody was feeling better. Family was more comfortable, nurse was more comfortable, patient was obviously more comfortable. It was quick and it put everybody at ease, and it was done right away. The time it would have took to get somebody out of their bed and into the car and to the house would have left the patient off oxygen for quite some time. So it was definitely a positive situation for everyone.
The thing that I like, and I think probably a lot of companies, and we've certainly been there in the past, and I don't intend on being there in the future, is in some ways you can be somewhat intimidated by other companies, right? Oh, what are they doing? How are they doing it? So on and so forth, right? But I've, I guess as the defunct leader of this group, I have been there, and I've learned that lesson, and I'm learning that lesson to not do that. We're kicking the door open, right? So the point about it is I want other companies to do respiratory telehealth. I want this to go across the nation at scale. I want this to be the new primary tool that people use, because it's going to solve so many problems. And there's 1.55 million patients on average a day that are on hospice services. That's a lot of people. Currently, we do only 1.45 million calls a day on telehealth, which is fantastic. Do the math. That's 1 bazillion. Basically, Bezos and I are right.
Same.
Actually, you know what? Bezos, check this out. So Bezos's ex-wife is getting remarried. You guys see that on the news?
There's someone from here.
It's
Really?
My wife went to college with him. She knows him.
Yeah, it's somebody from like Montgomery County.
Eastern University,
No way.
where she went to college. We went to college together.
So Trish is famous now.
She's like Kevin Bacon.
Mm-hmm. So you're famous.
Yeah.
I've been there.
So maybe you'll get invited to their house.
That's what I'm thinking.
Wedding.
Yep, that's what I'm thinking. But so basically what I'm saying is
I can marry someone rich and roll out of this podcast.
that's what's up. Especially
Yo.
if this tornado hits. I'm out. So what I'm saying is whether you use our company or another company, I want hospice companies. God is my witness. I want hospice companies to use this because it's such a solution. And having had family members on hospice, you don't want to hear the noise of so-and-so can't come out, or they're going to be out at this time, or we've called them and we don't know what else to do, or what they're going to be there tomorrow or the next day. Because typically, correct me where I'm wrong, but shortness of breath is really, what is it, a 3-minute issue or whatever? Or no, whatever. I don't know. What is it? 3 weeks, no food, 3 months, no water, 3 seconds, no air.
Not even sure.
Yeah, right.
Point is,
Wanna
breathing
take over? 'Cause
problems
I think
need to
he
be
hasn't
solved
had
like
air in a
that.
while. And
What'd
he's
you say?
short of breath. I said,
What happened?
Brayden, do you want to take over? Because he's clearly short of breath.
Yeah. I
I
think
think
there's a lack of
I
oxygen
think I
to the
just had
brain.
a stroke.
3 minutes, no air. Eric.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Brayden. Where you at?
Can you send me that link for the telehealth? I'd like to catch on there. So point is, breathing problems need to be solved immediately. And I want to, let's share it all together. I don't need the credit. Denise doesn't need the credit. Brayden doesn't need the credit. We just want to have hospice companies use this and it solves so many problems. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to talk about that typical patient. Let's say it's a mask, simple thing, a mask. But I can remember the first time working at a hospital in Southern California as a student, and they sent me down there. They were having a mask issue on somebody on BiPAP in the ER. Remember the old Brayden? I should ask you. Remember the BiPAPs, the Respironics STs that were on stands?
Oh yeah.
The white box thing or whatever.
I don't know
The
about that. I
box.
do know about that.
Well, you're like
And
20.
Yeah, but we used to get them from you, Brayden.
Oh, yeah, you flip down the panel on the back and you
Yes.
dial. Yeah.
Yep. I like those because they're easy to set. But anyways, point is, I went down there and the patient had like pulled the mask off or the strap off, and I'm trying to figure that thing, whatever. Point is, it's difficult. So let's assume that patient has a mask fitting issue where they pulled it off and now they got it in their hand and they're short of breath and they can't, whatever. So typically what happens is, right, caregiver, who many times is the family member, calls a hospice company. What do they say? We'll just put the mask back on. Well, we don't know how to do that. And the patient's desaturating or short of breath or what have you. So now we get an on call for the nurse, right? Let's say it's 7 o'clock at night. Nurse has been out all day. Boom, she flips to overtime. Let's come up with a cost there. So a typical hospice nurse, let's say, makes $30 an hour. Maybe more, maybe less. $30 an hour at overtime is $45 an hour. Nailed that math right there.
So smart.
We got
3-hour
it.
visit from port to port,
There you go.
right? 3-hour visit. Who dat? That's $120. Is that good math? 90, right? Good.
Just blew the guy a kiss, by the way.
Yeah.
100 and whatever. So basically we're at, let's just say we're at $150, $135 bill, right? And oh, by the way, she has a mask in her car, or not. Let's say that she doesn't have a mask, because many times they don't. Right. So she goes there. She kind of figures out how to put the mask on, but it's really not that. Somebody called me and said, "Hey, figure out this IV maze." I wouldn't have it straight. Right. So she puts it on, she gets it on to the point, but it's still not sealed correctly. Patient endures that all night long. Right. And then the next morning they call again. Right. Nurse goes back out in addition to her caseload. Now that pushes her to overtime, and then maybe let's say another 3 hours. Now we're at $300. And then now the family's upset. They call the executive director of the hospice, which gets a negative feedback, which could be a negative review, so on and so forth. So that's an undocumented or you can't put a dollar figure on that necessarily. So we're at $300. Now they decide, let's call our respiratory partner, which typically where we walk in. And so we get on the phone and we try to figure it out. They come out, let's say that the mask is now broken or what have you, right? And so they want a respiratory visit. We go out with a new mask, which there's a cost there, respiratory visit charge as well. So now we're getting more expensive and more expensive and more expensive. And so these numbers can add up. Oh, they tried to order a mask and it was the wrong mask. That happens a lot, right, Denise? They order X, Y, and Z mask. They think they knew that was the correct mask. And God bless the hospice nurses, very sweet and wonderful, kind people. But there are 5 zillion masks. Like right now, I couldn't tell you a ResMed mask really from a F9er. But the point is expensive. And now we've gotten, let's say 3 masks. Oh, we've seen it where there's 4 masks and they're just really irritated, right? These bills can add up and on and on and on. It could be $1,000 bill. You could have eliminated that for $39. The initial call, go back to that initial patient, caregiver who happens to be the daughter or calls hospice. They say, oh, perfect example of somebody who needs respiratory telehealth. Boom, we get the link, shoot it to them. We get on the call. We have somebody who listens to our instruction. Zip, 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 done. Patient can now breathe. They don't have to struggle throughout the night, so on and so forth. Yeah, I'm doing a lot of hand gestures today.
Zip.
It must be a Southern thing. Y'all, I'm going to start saying y'all now, by the way.
Were you doing the hand jive?
No, but I do jazz hands.
Oh God.
I like it.
Because we have friends down here and they're like, I don't know. I saw one of them do that. Like,
I'm gonna leave it alone. Leave it alone.
So anyways, it can be very expensive. And not even from a cost standpoint. What's the cost of 2 days of your loved one struggling to breathe? Do they expire unnecessarily? Are they just irritated to the point where they're like, this hospice is terrible and we're getting
I fired a hospice when my dad was on.
Yep. That happens.
On to the next.
And even
or what if you're in a rural area? Like, you know what I mean? That's a huge concern,
Or now specifically, you don't want the exposure to the virus. You don't want to have me, God forbid, I'm on call and now I'm straggling in, stranded. I'm coming into your house and I got the virus all in the beard, and I'm over there leaning in. And this is what you see if you're the patient. Like this.
So wait, can you transmit the virus?
That's a bad
beard?
look. What?
Jesus, take me now.
Yeah, I didn't know that virus transmission from beard was a thing. Yeah.
Braden, it's a high level medical knowledge.
It's not the
Okay,
virus.
all right.
it's
I don't think you're
or
gonna get
whatever
there,
else is
bud.
in there.
Okay, all right. I got you.
Yeah, there's probably my sandwich from last night. But
No
point is, not only the cost of dollars, which in businesses we obviously tend to look at, but the impact of what we're doing. Again, I'm glad that I'm not in Dunkin' Donuts business. Here's your donut. Here's your coffee. Here's your donut. Here's your coffee.
That sounds amazing.
I want to say something else, but I'm going to be mature.
Leave it alone.
Here's your donut. Here's your coffee. No,
Hey.
here, take a breath. I'm going to help you get it. That's something even on what we tell all of our people, even on your worst day, you're helping people. And that's something you should be proud of. So the cost of having that person be short of breath unnecessarily, and then going back to the intrinsic costs of what does it cost the director that is trying to differentiate themselves as a hospice. Oh, by the way, there's about 1 zillion hospices out there. I think there's
5 million.
5,500. I think there's 5,500 hospices across the nation, I want to say. So they have to differentiate themselves. And if I have a loved one who's a chronic lung patient, and oh, by the way, specific to ALS, there's 14,000 ALS patients at any given time right now. Every ALS patient should have a respiratory therapist telehealth call weekly. I believe that to my core. So if you're trying to differentiate yourself and if I have a loved one who's a chronic lung patient or ALS patient or whatever, and they say, oh, by the way, we have access to 24-hour respiratory telehealth. We get a respiratory therapist if there's any issues. Oh, well, chronic lung patients don't have any breathing issues. Oh, ALS patients don't have any breathing issues. Oh, that's a hard no. So
Okay.
if you're looking to differentiate yourself as a hospice, here's a great opportunity. Besides, we care and love for your patient and so on and so forth. In this marketplace, with these patients going home and many of them wanting to avoid the nursing homes, hospice is growing and they're going to have, more and more patients on service. So what a great tool to have. So is that clear? I feel like I want to get across that this is not just hey, let's sell this thing. I'm asking the world to please embrace this. I'm asking my competitors to embrace this. I want this to be a tool that people use for these patients. For sure.
Loud and clear. You got it.
Man,
You did a great job with that.
No, you really are. You struggled a lot through it. I mean, in the end of the day, you got your message across clearly, but you were struggling.
I was struggling. Didn't take a drink.
You need a drink, yeah.
And that Tito's is real harsh in the morning, though.
It's a little bit rough, but once you get past the first couple sips,
I bought Denise a handle of Tito's.
Smashed it.
I don't know, a couple months ago. She came over for dinner, and it was $35. I went to grab the whatever. I don't drink hard alcohol. I'm on the beer.
That's like 75%. Just let's put that out there.
Yeah. So I didn't buy the bottle. I went for the jug.
Handle.
What's it called?
It's a handle, and I would accept no less. Just saying.
Excuse me. Yes, of course. I knew that. So I felt like you were here, and as I was grabbing the smaller one, you were making fun. So I grabbed the bigger one. You know what she did? She fell on her steps and smashed the entire thing.
I had a piece of glass. Do you see my scar? I had a piece of glass go right into my whole.
Wow.
I actually think it's still in there.
Mm-hmm.
The whole thing gone, smash.
Thankfully, it wasn't at the office.
It was a bad day.
But I think I would have been able to get out of that because of the fact with the Tito's. I would have just said I didn't buy it.
It was unopened. It was unopened. I didn't get to drink any of it.
I thought you drank some at my house.
Oh, no. Yeah. All right. Well, then it wasn't open.
Oh, you must have drank a lot at his house if you don't remember.
I forgot.
Yeah, but I wasn't bringing it out after I got home from the house. This was like a couple days later. And the reason, mind you, that I fell and smashed the bottle is because I was bringing out my trash cans, which I should never have been doing in the first place. Tired of it. I don't want to bring them down. I don't want to bring them up. I just want somebody to take my trash out.
Just open your window and throw the trash bag out the window.
Sure.
No, I just want somebody to take it in the can and put it on the street from the back.
When we had the babies with the diaper age, Trish would open up the window from the second story and throw the diaper out onto the grass.
Yeah.
That meant I was to take it and then put it in the trash.
Yeah, see, I have to do all my own stuff, and I'm over it.
Yeah.
The trash mainly.
Well, I think we've gone down the rabbit hole here.
I'm saying.
Yeah.
Braden, can you're a calming factor. Can you bring some words of wisdom into the podcast?
Words of wisdom from Braden Beaker. Wow.
That's not how you say your last name, by the way.
It's really not.
No. It's yeah. See, you all these years, and you guys didn't know how to pronounce my last name.
I
I
know.
didn't really
just-
care.
We said the wrong name, and I won't say it on the podcast, but I think people can look at your name and see the spelling and figure out, pick
Yep.
up what I'm putting down,
You definitely, the spelling doesn't help.
which is the reason I didn't want to say it, because it's downright embarrassing, that last name. If you
It sure is. It
That's-
sure is.
say how you say it, but
My
now that
ancestors.
it's strong like bull.
It's German, so it was Bicher. There's a little, you know.
Well, Mazel tov.
What?
I love it. I think it's great.
Well,
Denise, aren't you have some German? Isn't
Yeah,
your
I'm
last name
German. I'm Dutch though. My last name is Dutch.
Oh, okay.
You ain't Dutch, you ain't much.
I always thought your last name was Van Baal, but it's
It's Ball.
Okay.
Mm.
Okay.
yeah,
And it is a lowercase v.
yeah.
So,
Well, I don't know what our time frame here is, but basically challenge yourself to use respiratory telehealth. Just give it a try. If it's not us, call your DME company and say, hey, why don't you guys, this is what I want you to do. Call your DME company and say, why don't you have a respiratory therapist on staff or have a connection with a respiratory therapist? 2, I need respiratory telehealth, and watch them scramble. Demand, the market, it's like anything. The market doesn't care whether you're a man or a woman, whether you're young or old, whether you're whatever. It wants what it wants when it wants it. That's why Amazon was such a win for everybody. That's why telehealth makes sense. That's why delivering groceries makes all the sense. Like all these things, it's just the market's demand, right? So the market needs to demand that patients don't wait for respiratory services any longer. It's unacceptable. From the bottom of my heart, what I'm saying is, whether it be us or another company, if you just think this face is the worst, call your DME company and say, hey, I don't want to use Larry Pitt. I would rather use you guys, Respiratory Services Arizona LLC, although we can service you in Arizona, it doesn't really matter. But point is, demand that they have respiratory telehealth and demand that they have a respiratory therapist who can help your patients. How did I do on that? Pretty good.
so good.
Excellent. That was excellent.
So
I'm
good.
feeling great about it. And yep, I'm feeling great about it. And I'm feeling like I was a real patient advocate today, and I'm proud of that. So that's good. So when my mother-in-law watches my daughter, Sophia, who's 10, and when Jack watches it, Brady, baby dudes.
He is still wearing a hat every day. Don't.
Did you hear? Well, I think you heard. Can I share or no? Is that
Yeah,
it?
go ahead. Sure. My son shaved his head bald.
So Denise and I were on a Zoom call with a candidate, and all of a sudden I seen a lot of commotion, and I look down and I see her son, baby dudes, it looked like he took one of the
No,
zips.
I know, but it's scissors. He cut it to this. I'm surprised. Like I said, his brain wasn't showing. I mean, he cut
a
it to the.
lawnmower strip on the top of his head. And so he goes by the nickname of Baby Dudes. And then one of Denise's friends and then they had to shave his head off, or no, shave the hair off. And she called them Baldy Dudes.
He's devastated. I'm telling you, he still won't look at himself in the mirror. He wears a hat every single day in the house to sleep, the whole nine. He's devastated.
Well, it's got to be growing back by now.
I mean, it's grown back, but it's that stupid. You know what I'm talking about, clearly. Just a bald-headed look, like it's all one length. And he's used, my cousin's a barber, so he's used to having a decent haircut since he's been 6 months old. And
was that a dig at bald-headed people? I'm not sure.
Right in. I didn't say anything. I was just saying. So he's used to. I mean, he's had a mohawk. He's got things always like shaved into the side of his head. He's always got like a decent haircut, and now he just looks lame.
But Braden, at least you have a nice, rounded, beautiful head. Like if my head was bald, I would look like I had Abraham Lincoln's top hat on my face. I think that's what it would look like.
We give it a try sometime. Give it a try.
I don't think that's a good look. That's why I had to do the glasses and the beard. And usually there's a hat on. It's an avoidance of the face.
Yeah, but you're getting a little sparse back there.
There's a lot of things happening back here, and not in a positive
yeah, it's going away.
fashion.
You look like Braden seen enough.
Yeah. Well, I think everybody did a fantastic job on the podcast, as I like to say. I think if anybody wants to talk with, again, we're talking about respiratory issues as it relates to our hospice and nursing home folks. And so we're happy to answer questions, and we don't need you to be a customer in order to call and ask questions. We're happy to help anytime. So give us an old, I guess it'll be on Facebook and LinkedIn. DM us.
Mm-hmm.
Braden's active on LinkedIn. Denise has now become on LinkedIn. I put my face on LinkedIn quite a bit. And
hey, and remember, to those folks, remember the telehealth that we have, there's no monthly fees, no subscription. A lot of this stuff has these monthly, nothing like that. Right, Eric?
Yeah, absolutely. And you don't have to listen to 2 hours of a sales pitch, like one of those time-shared things where they finally tell you, oh yeah, by the way, that's $60,000. It's, and all the companies that like to hide their fees, it's $39 a call. That's it.
$39.
Yeah. So take away all the mystery. That's it. All right. So great job, Eric, on the podcast.
You did so good.
Thank you, Eric. Appreciate that.
You
Way
did.
to go.
You're fun to work with. What a funny guy.
So hilarious.
And handsome as the devil.
I can't agree with that.
So great job, everybody. Joel, cue the music. We're back from our hiatus. We've been very busy. And the podcast, we actually did an entire episode of the podcast that got zipped somehow. I don't know how that happened, but we did it. And so here we are back.
On that one, I said hi to my friend Rachel. She's my viewer.
Hi,
so
Rachel.
yeah, thanks.
Yes, you're a good friend.
She's my one viewer. You're welcome.
Well, great job, everybody. Cue the music, and next time we'll talk about noses, because that's related to respiratory, I guess. Is there anything to say about noses?
Do you nose you need telehealth?
Nailed it. Go ahead, Karen. Say something negative about the podcast. I dare you, hon.
I wish you would. I'll find you. Burn you in the
Great
ground.
job, everybody. Way to go on the podcast. Denise, cue the end of the
Stop
podcast.
recording. Oh, God.
See you next time on there.